Let's talk about the 2016 cycle. President Obama did raise significantly more than President Bush. Times changed, the system changed. He really...
I don't know what our final number was. It'd be interesting to see. My guess it was more like, my guess it was probably 500 million.
It's about half that. So if you're a Republican now, let's talk about it from the Republican point of view. Hillary Clinton, most likely Democratic nominee, most likely will raise, according to her people, more than President Obama raised without any serious or any opposition. So just talk about it from the Republican point of view.
I think they're making a lot. I think there's assumptions in that statement that I would.
It's a possibility.
Let's hold it for argument's sake.
For argument's sake,
she's going to raise a lot of money.
So let's say this: she's going to raise the president and secretary have as good a political fundraising organization as anybody in the Democratic state. Money is not going to be their issue.
So Republican candidates for president will start raising money in 2015, most likely. I doubt anybody will start in any serious way this year. So what are the table stakes for 2015? If you're going to be a top-tier, serious Republican presidential candidate, what do you need to raise in calendar year 15?
Well, it depends on kind of how you think about it, right? So if you look at, let's say you use Romney as a mechanism, he raised $300 million in the 2000, the whole cycle.
Right.
So that was the 18 months prior to the general. I think you have to think about this from two perspectives. First of all, let's assume you start raising money in 2015. There's a lot of people. Hypothetically, the field's going to be very crowded, right? And so the degree to which you're able to bring together, we talked about those the people who've been in the business and love being involved in it and raising money, and combine them with a lot of new people in 2015, very powerful.
Well, let's put a number on it.
If you were advising a major candidate, and he or she said to you, "What do I need to raise to fund this campaign at a serious level for this calendar year," which gets you up to the eve of the actual voting?
I mean, look, I think President Bush raised. I think we raised in the first one. We raised, I don't know, 75 million.
Yeah.
So you're probably north of that. You probably want to be north of that, probably 100-ish.
In calendar year 2015.
Potentially, it depends on when you get in the race and kind of how if you think through the process and how you're going to spend the money and all those kind of things. But you're probably somewhere between $50 and $100 million. Right.
And would you tell all of them if you want to be a serious candidate, you got to have a super PAC?
No, because who knows what the law will be by the time we get there, right? I mean, so we don't know, but it would be interesting to try to run a presidential campaign with one hand tied behind your back.
Right. And how do you raise?
Interesting by what you mean nuts.
Well, I mean, I'm sure somebody will do it. But
yeah. How do you raise $100 million? Breakdown between big contributions through bundlers versus small.
Well, you're probably looking at the Republican tradition would probably be 2 to 1
on big contributions.
$2,000 contributions to one on. Because one of the things that Secretary Clinton and President Clinton have is this extraordinary list, right? So they'll be able to hit those, and so some of the folks will have a big list. Some of those others, Rand Paul has a big network of people around the country that'll be giving him smaller contributions. So it depends on the candidate as to what the mixed breakdown is.
Right. So President Obama, as you pointed out, he rose when the internet was a very big thing in our society, but it was more than just the availability of the technology. He was a good internet brand.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Governor Romney,
in essence, created a brand in the internet.
So Republicans tend to not be as good.
Well, we're getting better.
Yeah. So what's the key? Again, you're advising a Republican candidate. What are the 3 keys to being a good internet fundraiser as a Republican presidential candidate?
Well, I think if you run for president today, and it's not really the internet. It's the creation of communication with people outside the traditional news networks. You got to build a channel that allows you to, in a real way, social network, blogging, broadcast, non-broadcast communication. You have to build a way to talk directly to voters. And so I think anybody who runs for president in 2016 has got to build that.
So if you're talking to voters on Facebook, they're more likely to give you money on Facebook.
But you got to create a ethos about who you are, so that people feel and know that there's a mechanism of communication beyond watching you on television, because that day is not necessarily there, because just think about people consume their news. It's 20 different news feeds.
But how does that connect to fundraising?
Well, you have to build a community where you're in that space so that you can fundraise for them. I mean, if you're talking to them in a different medium, it's not likely that you're not going to. If they're not getting the content, knowledge base of who you are, what your positions are, and why you want their support beyond financial, in the same sphere of communications that they're living their lives, very hard to ask them for money.